this session. This is sure to be a fun one. We have a great panel, very, very interesting, fun panel. And this session is called Beyond Waves and Wires, the art of storytelling and human touch. And obviously super important for everything that we do in this industry, but this session really pulls together the importance of that storytelling, human touch, and how we combine it with all this incredible technology that we have going on today. So let me introduce you to our panelists. First of all, we have Nick Murphy, who I'm sure is no stranger to this stage today or yesterday. He's the head of entertainment at IMG in Dubai. We have Osama Al-Kuraiji, who's the CEO of Hakawati Entertainment. Really looking forward to talking to you more about that in a moment. And we also have Julien Cassaret, who's the Chief Strategy and Development Officer with Crystal. So please welcome all three of our guests today. Good. Thank you very much. Wonderful. Love that. Interaction. That's what we like. Okay, so let's give you gentlemen a very brief opportunity to introduce yourselves. Just tell us a little bit about what you do in one to 2 minutes, just so we know who we're talking to. Let's start with you, Julian, over there on the end.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening, maybe. My name is Julien. I am based in Paris. I am the Chief Strategy and Development Officer of Crystal. Crystal is a creator and producer and manufacturer of water and special effects. So we work a lot in the theme park industry, theme park, tourism destinations, as well as the special event industry. We work a lot for show producers around the world, and my role at Crystal is to lead the global expansion of the company that is already 30 years old. We have been producing during the past 30 years approximately 100 permanent installations around the world on 5 countries, not 5 continents. And when it comes to big international productions, I am in charge of the supervision and the production of water-based experiences. So I have a double hat on my head when it comes to developing projects.
Thanks, Julian. Osama?
Yes, my name is Osama Al-Kuraiji. I'm the CEO of Hakawati. My background is a filmmaker. I have studied filmmaking in United States. I graduated from New York Film Academy. Then when I come back here, I opened my own company. Now it's one of the leading companies in production sector. We mainly do TV series, TV shows, and in the last 3 years we have done more than 30 plus title. And yeah, that's pretty much
amazing. What a great background. Excellent. Yeah. Nick?
Hi, I'm Nick Murphy. You've definitely know my voice, but a little bit more about me is that I'm the head of entertainment at IMG Worlds of Adventure. My background is in creative production, specifically with entertainment. But yeah, I also do a lot of business excellence as well. And yeah, that's me.
Brilliant. Okay, well, welcome. Thank you very much. Let's crack on with the session. So let me give you just a little quick introduction to the topic. So as I said earlier, we have all this unbelievable technology. I'm sure you've all had time to walk the floor and see all the latest and greatest products and pieces of technology available. Projection, lighting, physical effects, immersive audio, all of that stuff. Water, of course. Thank you. But it's the human connection to all of this tech that resonates, isn't it? That's the important part of it. So how do we do it? That's the question. That's the broad topic of this conversation. At what stage of show development do we involve the tech partners? Is it at the first stage? Is it later? Do we develop the idea first? Does the tech support the concept? Does the concept support the tech? We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about storytelling. I know this is particularly important to you, Osama, but I think all of us, the narrative, the storytelling, that's what makes the production interesting. That's what compels the audiences. So let's start with the why. So why is it important to weave a narrative? Why is it important to weave storytelling into these productions and experiences? Why not just let all this wonderful tech be pretty and bright and shiny and splashy in your case? Nick?
No, I think it's a valid question to ask. I feel like you can never ask too many simple questions when it comes to this as well. And it does all come down to that storytelling and that human instinct to have a beginning and a middle and an end. And we're in a lucky position where we have so much new technology or new approaches to old technology where we can enhance the stories. So I'm sure all of our backgrounds as well, there's been moments where we've taken the story and it's been elevated with the use of technology. Maybe the drama is just a little bit more heightened, or the payoff at the end is just a little bit more rewarding as well. But I've definitely noticed an interesting shift. I'm not sure for you guys as well, but from a theme park background, theme parks were always looked at as a place of escape, or people would go to the theme park and say, well, I want to see the fireworks. That's cutting edge technology. But now everything's a lot more commercial and accessible, that the escapism that we're looking for could be that human touch, because I can see fireworks anywhere, or I can put on my headset and I can build my own drone show in 20 minutes. So I feel like in that regard as well, yes, technology still enhances that storytelling, but we're telling the story a little bit differently as we were a few years back.
And your background, Osama, in filmmaking, I mean, story comes first, right? Is that?
Of course. I think what make people connected with any element is the story itself. What is humanity? If we, look back to, my father is an anthropologist, and he's spending a lot of time reading the DNA stuff and going back to history. It's very interesting because you can, when you follow this, you actually read the story of generation after generation. So I believe what connect people to each other, what connect us, we are from different industries, but what connected us is the story itself. Holy books, it's full of stories. The Holy Quran is 70% of Holy Quran is stories. Bible is stories, and etc. And I think it's beyond. We know as people that we are very connected to it, but I think it's something in our souls. And it's beyond, what we experience. We know it's very important to us, but if we want to explain very well why, we will, end up in just, I would say, a vague area, because, it's beyond the humanities. A story is something bigger than this, I would say, entire universe.
Completely agree, yeah. And Julian, from your perspective?
I think there are many ways to approach this topic, and I've been questioning myself many times since I work in this industry, of the how is the storytelling being put on the table when it comes to developing project. And the question I asked myself was, who told us our first stories in our personal lives? Our parents, right? Why? To make us feel peaceful, to feel positive emotions before falling asleep, because they need to sleep as well. And before we feel asleep with this positive energy, the reason why they do that is for us to dream. And I think this is the essence of the storytelling that all theme park or destination operators are looking for. Connecting, and you were talking about it, Osama, connecting an audience to a destination. I think this is the essence, because offering a storytelling into an environment will help connect people with this destination by offering them an emotional backbone. And here I think the technology is supporting that. If you have just thousands of technologies being put at your face, I mean, at a certain point, of course, it could be wow, but just wow, I mean, it becomes boring. So there's another important word in your question, Mark, which is weave. and I think there are skills behind this, how to weave the right and the successful storytelling to be universally touching, because of course in such open air and public destination you need to touch every kind of audiences, 7 to 77 years old, right?
Yeah, and there's a few things around that, isn't there? If you're creating a show that doesn't necessarily have a direct dialogue narrative, but you can tell a story with music, you can tell a story with just a few words or with some visuals, and it's not always necessarily 100% important that every single audience member goes away with the same experience. Their interpretation of what they see is part of that narrative and part of that storytelling. And I think your point at the beginning, Julian, that actually I've never really thought of it like that. The first kind of experience of live entertainment is quite often a parent or a relative telling you a story, and how lovely is that?
That's why I'm dealing with bad and troubled night with my kids, so I know what I'm talking about.
So you're right up
that's
there.
right.
Okay, it's happening with you right now. It's so true though, it's really important. So look, is there a danger then, staying with you Julian for a second, is there a danger that the technology can get in the way, right? And the reason I ask that is we're also connected to devices and mobile phones and the internet and all of that stuff. We get that all the time. When we go and see a live experience and a live piece of entertainment, is that what we want? Do we want more tech? How do we make sure that tech doesn't get in the way of the storytelling and the enjoyment of it?
I think it's a question of balance, of course, but I don't think the balance is always necessary. I'll take two very different examples to explain my point. Opera performances, 3 hours of shows. Since centuries, there is a clientele for that, right? And there is a few technology in the old, I would say, opera. Of course, the modern opera, it's another topic. They bring more technology. On the contrary, you take a classic theme park nighttime spectacular, 100% of technology, few cast, low operating cost, for the greatest happiness of operators. The contrary does not work. If you take a live performance just for 2 minutes, could be spectacular, striking, catching your heart. Try to make a multimedia show for 3 hours. You'll die. So I think there are areas where balance between technology and human performances is not necessary, but if you ask how do we create this balance between live performance, human touch, because this is the theme of the session, and technology, I think there are three main ingredients that need to be taken into consideration. The amount of technology you have and tools you have in your hands to stage a performance, the amount of live performance, and emotions. So you were talking about rhythm. I think whatever the length of the performance, short, long, you really need to create different atmospheres. You need to insert some joy, some fear, some drama, some spectacular moments, some surprises, and sometimes have just a small amount of performer while having mass cast on the stage. 5 minutes later will bring another feeling of what's happening on stage, while backstage you are preparing the next sequence.
Yep.
And suddenly there is a big fireworks in the stage, which brings the wow. So I think that if it's a question of balance, this is the question for a creative director, a show director, who is supposed to have this knowledge and stage it and balance with those.
That's what we're supposed to do, yeah. No, listen, we do, in the theme park industry, Nick, we shape a narrative, we shape a show, don't we? We love to go in this direction, but we also need we have the roller coaster, right? That's what we do. Do you find that you struggle with tech getting in the way of the live show? Do you incorporate it in the kind of productions you produce?
It's a really good point. I think it can all derive back to intention and storytelling. It really does simplify down to that when it comes to technology, when it comes to tech in that regard as well, because it really is a means of communication nowadays. It's crazy to think, but really the birthplace and the life of culture comes from storytelling. That's why we have cultures, because we pass on these stories through generations, and we call it a tradition, but at the end of the day it's a story. There's a meaning behind it, and there's a history behind it as well. I mean, very much so with the Hakawati kind of nature of the kingdom as well. But in terms of my production experience, I definitely see technology, it can get in the way if you forget the reason behind it. It provides so much accessibility to audience members as well, so it can really be used to expand your audience. But yes, there are times where it does get too much in the way that you lose the story because the story becomes about the technology. It becomes about, look at this, we can do this, or you haven't seen this before. But yeah, I think that's what happens if we forget the intention and we forget the story behind it.
Yeah, agreed. I want to talk to you, Osama, a bit about this idea of something really important in this region, right? And it goes back in time, and you briefly mentioned it there, Nick. The famous Hakawatis in this region, which effectively translates as storytellers, right? And this is back in the time before there was TV and radio, and that was entertainment. That was gathering communities together into a space and telling stories to entertain, telling stories to resolve disputes. Sometimes, tales would go on for days and days. Can you tell us a bit more about that and why that's important in this region?
Yes, again, people are really connected to storytelling, and back days there was a lot of entertainment, and Hakawati was one of the entertaining, I would say, figures that people would love to hear too. And usually Hakawatis, they know stories from history. They add up, they make up their own versions of everything, and that's part of what we are doing as well. It's fictional in the end, I would say people consider this part of the entertainment. That's why we choose in our company to choose the same name.
Yeah.
The new, I would say, version of Hakawati is movies now.
Yes.
Movies is what entertain people and tell them stories. And we have variety of genres. It could be historical drama. It could be, action, and you have a lot of, as a filmmaker, a lot of options to tell your stories. And here, where the technology comes and helps you, I believe technology is a tool that makes filmmaking, for example, easier and maybe more efficient for investors. I can imagine how much a movie would cost today comparing of 25 years ago when people shoot with
do everything, right?
Films. The camera by itself needs 6 people around it. Now the camera by itself needs only 2-3 people around it.
You don't have to be in the same room even.
Exactly. Actually, we have this during Corona. Our director, he couldn't enter Saudi Arabia. He's from Egypt, and he directed the whole show online from Egypt. So technology, yes. he was
amazing
with the DOP, watching everything online, and he directed 10 episodes from online. I don't recommend this, but this is the solution. When the pandemic was an obstacle, to do this right. But what I mean, technology actually is helping a lot. It's making things more interesting. But what technology without, the real soul of movie, for example, is the story.
Yes.
And no matter how interesting, your movie is technology-wise, if the story is not good, audience will not keep watching this, and you will lose a lot of audience. So I think, again, as Julian said, it's a balance, but what comes first is the story.
And I think that's a great example of technology not getting in the way, but actually enhancing what you're doing. Exactly. Cutting edge CGI is doing the job of the original Hakawati storyteller in an incredibly engaging way. So yeah, absolutely fascinating. Right, Julian, I want to come to you because not all storytelling needs to involve dialogue, words, right? Especially in this region. We have visitors, tourists, expats living here from all over the world, right? And we're going to create these entertainment products. If we always want to do dialogue, if we always want to do speech, we're always going to have to translate into multiple languages. Can we effectively tell stories and create interesting and imaginative pieces of entertainment without dialogue, without language?
Definitely. I mean, I think in my life the best shows I've seen were speechless. Cirque du Soleil. I mean, of course they have masterpieces with a few dialogues, but they stage the most outstanding circus and human skills performances in a universe. Of course there is a theme, there is an environment supported by technology, supported by costumes, supported by the artistry on stage, involving every kind of skills around the stage environment, the theatrical environment. And I will take two other examples of live performances companies which I admire a lot. The next one maybe you don't know, it's Punch Drunk. They have developed Sleep No More in New York and the Burn City in London. These two, I will call it art piece, are immersive theater in environments which are never seen before. Sleep No More in New York is a 7th floor hotel where you have an access, private access. You leave your phone at the entrance, which is great and which we should do more in every kind of experiences. Punch Drunk, it's kind of the same. It's just 2 floor but wide environment where you follow like randomly performers. You don't know exactly what it's talking about. You don't know exactly what's the meaning behind. Sleep No More is Macbeth, and the Burn City is the Greek ancient wars.
Okay.
I didn't get it at first. I didn't know it, but at a certain point, who cares?
Yeah.
These were the best experiences in my life. Of course, there is a storytelling behind, but it doesn't mean I have to understand it. Of course, purists may understand it, definitely. I was probably not looking for that night, those nights when I went into those shows. And I think what those two companies, and the last one I wanted to talk about is the Slava Snow Show.
Oh yeah, amazing.
Like, again, a masterpiece since 30 years touring the world. Russian clowns, where the skills is on small, tiny movements which are expressing a lot of words. We always say one image means more than 1,000 words, right?
Correct, yeah.
A single movement of a hand and the face and the costume and something where you focus on, where 2,000 people are focusing on at a moment on a stage is meaningful. And what those three companies have in common is how to perform on a stage without technology or just a few technology, human skills. And I think human skills sometimes are more than telling words.
We had a session up here yesterday talking about lighting design and how it influences shows, and one of the questions I asked a designer was, should you go away going, oh, the lighting was fantastic? And he said, no, absolutely not. You know, the technology is there to support what's happening. You shouldn't even notice it. It should be so, part of everything that you enjoyed. So Nick, in theme park, the kind of shows and stuff you're creating and producing, do you use a lot of dialogue? Do you avoid it, or is it a conscious thought?
I mean, given the region and given the targeted audience, the majority is ESL, or English as a second language. So I find that communicating is a lot more effective with, say, dance moves, with dancing, or I mean, it could even be the movement of lighting, or it could be the movement of choreographed water, to engage and set that scene. But yeah, it is really kind of using technology to communicate. We know that red means hot and blue means cold. So there's always a thought process behind these designs, which is why we bring on lighting designers, or we bring in people that can use both sides of the brain when it comes to conceptualizing and realizing a production. But I definitely find that the human touch as well is still essential in that as well. For productions that aren't pop-up or event-based, but productions that are in-house or longer term, I've found that there's a lot more I guess, replayability for the show. If there is that human interaction or that human touch, that's what people really want to come back and see. Like if you go and see a concert, it's more exciting if everything's perfect. Well, great, that's what I expected. But if the artist forgets their own lyrics, or if the drummer loses his drumstick, that's what I'm going to remember. That's the human touch. That's the mistake, which is unplanned, which you won't necessarily get as authentically from technology. So I feel like that's what really keeps people coming back to a production as well, is the humanity and maybe the errors behind it.
Sure. I love what you just said, Nick, about unexpected events in a performance, and it keeps reminding me one main shows. My favorite moments are when an actor forgets about what's next in his speech, and if he's very good, he could spend 15 minutes improvising. These are the most laughing moments in the show, right? So unexpected events in our industry, when it's under control on a stage that is safe, that's great. When it's not, of course, unexpected. You don't want the unexpected in a theme park environment where you have many shows under operation, right? But yeah, when it comes to theatrical performance or one-man show, the unexpected brings more unexpected.
Yeah, you suddenly feel like I'm seeing this is happen for the first time. This is special to me and my enjoyment of this show. Absolutely, but you can weave those moments in, can't you? And I think you touched on it there, Nick, and you did earlier, Julian. We don't all have to come away from a production feeling the same way. We don't all have to come away going, that show was about that. That's what you take from it is what you take from it, and that gives it that repeatability. That brings people coming back to see the show again and again. We had some great examples there from you, Julian. Osama, I wonder if you could perhaps give us a couple of examples of where you've seen a production or a show, but a piece of technology has kind of unexpectedly helped it or lifted it, and probably that filmmaking probably is a really good point.
Sure. I would say there is one of the genre that we have in movies. It's called non-dialogue movies, and Baraka. I don't know if anybody here have seen Baraka. It's online. I think it's on YouTube. Go and write Baraka, Baraka. It's an amazing example. It's a 3 hours movie without no dialogues. You only watch a filmmaker who travels the world in 5 years with a film camera, and he was trying to explore the meaning of Baraka, which is blessing in English, and he used he chose the name Baraka because Baraka is in so many languages. In Arabic, it's the same in Turkish, in so many languages, and it's very enjoyable. You will understand it. You will get the meaning of Baraka from only the pictures and music, no dialogues. In 2016, I was a co-director in a movie called Jude. It follows the same technique. Jude also mean generosity. We have traveled around the Saudi Arabia, and we were exploring the concept and meaning behind generosity with no dialogues. Only you watch scenes. Actually, it's kind of a documentary, so it's a natural scenes. And the music, that's it, and it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, can be more powerful than words, right?
Exactly. Also, when we write, there is a term all filmmakers are very familiar with: show don't tell. We always push writers to show us events, emotions, whatever, instead of telling by dialogues, instead of telling me he's angry by throwing dialogues, show me that he's angry, and this is way more powerful.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to ask you three now for some tips. Right, And I'm going to start with you in a sec, Julian. I'm sure a lot of us here in the audience, a lot of people we know, we receive a brief, right? We're a creative agency, or a creative company, we're a light and sound, whatever it might be. We've received a brief, and it's one of those lovely briefs that we all like, and it says, create something new. It has to be amazing. It must have the wow factor. Budget to be determined. All right, we've all had briefs like that, or it might not be worded in exactly that same way, but we've all had those briefs. Where do we start? So where do we begin? Can you give us some tips about how we start to ensure that the storytelling, narrative, emotional response takes center stage?
And budget.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about the budget after. Yeah.
So first of all, I would say to those clients that they've knocked at a good door, but they could have woke up a little bit earlier. Right?
Okay.
Now, joke apart, I think from a producer standpoint, you really have to catch your attention to what matters the most and what is the most meaningful element in the brief you've received. What is the location? Show me the location. We will analyze it. Every single square meter, we will analyze how we can transform it to connect that area to the audience that will come. So I would say that analyzing the destination and the location is the first thing. Analyzing the risk, the opportunities into this area. That's the first starting point. And this exercise has to be done with a creative team right away, because again, storytelling will come from this skilled person.
Sure.
So I would say that once this analysis is done, what are my tools I can make happen in 3 weeks? This is the time frame you gave, I think. And again, I put the budget apart, and I think, and this is the last thing, having the right talented people around you, as a producer standpoint. In 3 weeks, you cannot start exploring new talents you don't know, you've never worked with before. You need to go straight to the point. You need to engage right away those players that will work by your side, and they have to be people you love to work with. If you don't trust those talents and designers, you'll never make it. So I recently had this experience with two of my friends in the audience here, which are laughing. I see them. A lighting designer and a creative director, and we did it for a Saudi client. We did it successfully. It worked, but again, it was tight.
Sure.
So yeah.
Well, you gave yourself the 3-week deadline. That was okay. That's fine. No, that's good. So, Osama, Julian says location. He says get the right team on board. Where do you start?
First, our world is different because we usually come up with the idea and we pitch. So, but I have worked in agencies before and in commercial sites, which I don't like, to be honest. That was
for that reason, right?
For that reason, for that particular reason. But I would say study your target audience very well.
Great.
This is for me the key, and what I have, sorry to say this, but the silly thing I have seen a lot, when you have a general target of your audience, you need to know your specific target of audience, what they like, what they don't like, how can you engage them, and you have to prioritize of course you will have more than target of audience, but you need to know who are the priority. I think this is a key of getting that project right.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. All right, Nick. So we've sorted out the location, got the best team involved. We know who the audience are. If you agree with that process so far, what's next?
No, absolutely. My first thought was, I would thank the client for their enthusiasm,
right?
For jumping in before the budget.
What a great brief.
They must be keen, which will be easy to work with. But my first question would be, well, who are we trying to wow?
Okay.
Is because they said wow us. Yes, I can do something for them, but that's not going to make money if that's their goal, or that's not going to sell tickets if that's their goal. So it would definitely be who. Who are we trying to wow? and then understanding that market, what wows them, because it's very cultural. What does wow people? It's about knowing their expectations and exceeding them, or surprising them, or knowing what's popular. And well, when there's so much competition with an event or with a production, it's about being the first or being the best. So how would be my next question, and well, that's what I would provide for them, of course. But we discussed yesterday as well, is what you see is what you get. And I think I'd make that very clear to them, as the budget has not been confirmed, that yes, we can do wonders, but you get what you pay for sometimes. I mean, on the other side of that spectrum, creativity is free, so I'm more than happy to adapt, but as long as that expectation is set, then the budget won't be too much of a struggle with that 3-week deadline.
You heard it here first. Creativity is free. Yeah, I'm not sure everyone would agree with that, but interesting. It's really interesting. It's great approaches, of course, to all of it. Okay, I'm going to give you all a crystal ball now, right? So you can gaze into the future, and you can answer this question in one or two ways. You can gaze into the future, and you can tell me what you think will be the latest and greatest piece of technology in 5-10 years' time, or you can look into it and you can say, I wish I had this. This is what would really make my next show, my next movie, my next production, my next wow thing. What have I looked for? What would I wish existed? Is there something that you can share with us? Either, as I say, what do you see is happening? What are going to be the latest trends in tech, especially, or what would you really like to see, Julian?
It's not an easy question. I wouldn't say it has to be necessarily a technology in itself, but maybe a concept or a combination of technology.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Harry Potter. Maybe you know this creature, the Boggart, which is, for those who don't know, it's a creature that shows to everyone. It takes an appearance of the worst fear you have. Let's trade it in creating something, a box, a VR, Google, a content, I don't know what, but a universe, an atmosphere into every one of us. Would be analyzed by an AI of what is our inner best experiences we had in our life, combining it with the emotion we need at the moment. If we feel sad, bring me joy. If I'm a bit too overwhelmed, calm me down a little bit. Yeah. Let's enter into the joy box, being analyzed by an AI, and give me a content that will take me into this mood.
Wow, very good. People scribbling, going, oh yeah, let's invent it. Asaba?
In production, I direct sometimes, so one of the most things that takes a lot of time from us is lighting. And I have my buddy here. He's the DOP of my latest movie.
Give us a wave. There you go.
Bilal.
DOP down there.
And he always takes a lot of time shaping the lights. So I wish we have a technology that make this very, way simpler, because I would love to spend energy on set with actors and other things other than waiting 2 hours for Bilal shaping the light.
DOPs always get the blame, don't they? They always get the blame. Oh, I've been waiting for 2 hours. How hard is it to light this scene? Yeah. Okay, so some way to make that faster. Okay, great. Love that. Nick, what would you like?
That's my favorite question. What wouldn't I like, really? But I think if everything's off limits, or where I kind of see the future, I'd really like to, I'm definitely more of an analog person. I handwrite everything, but okay. I'd really like to see a step away from wearable tech. I say wearing tech.
Pretend this doesn't exist.
Exactly. But I think in the sense that maybe for a theme park experience or something, if there's some kind of, we're seeing facial recognition pop up more and more, but maybe if there's some kind of invisible tattoo or something that I have my own profile in this venue, that very much similar to streaming services, saying recommended for you. Maybe it knows what I like. It reads my heart rate. It says, well, this was thrilling, and if you're looking for thrilling today, we will will create the experience for you, and just to kind of use technology to guide so I don't miss out on anything as well.
Nice.
It speeds up getting from A to B, and it knows what I'm going to like, or maybe even if it connects me into an attraction where I can control the ride vehicle, or I'm watching a stunt show and without touching or wearing anything, I'm connected to an avatar that is performing the stunts.
Wow.
Bringing in that gamification, I think.
Like it, yeah. Great, awesome, amazing. Great answers. I love it all, and I hope it all comes true for you. We've got a few minutes left. We've got a fantastic panel here. Great information, real diverse backgrounds, real diverse experience. If anyone would like to ask any of our gentlemen here a question, now is your opportunity. Gentlemen down here, I think we have a microphone for you. Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your feeling and what you to tell us what you think. I have a question for everyone. It's about the audience, because we talk about shows, technology, humans, but we don't talk a lot with audience, and especially when we talk about the language without language. Osama told to us about a film, Baraka. And yes, many years ago we had Charlie Chaplin. In France recently we have The Artist, which is a movie without any language, and we are able to understand. It's the same for the event industry. Because at the moment there is for language, for example, I'm French, so I speak English as I can, but it's horrible, I know. But in the event, it's sometimes just as, for example, if I put a candle in the middle of the table, nobody see it probably. If you put everything in black, everyone will see the candle. I mean, there is a language probably, and I would like to know, when you talk about the brief, Mark, for 3 weeks, how, for you guys, where do you put the audience when you think about the show, the industry? Thank you.
Who would like to take that?
I'd love to jump in on that one as well.
Yeah,
I think it's a really fantastic question when you're considering the language and you're considering the audience as well. Because things have very much changed, especially with technology as well. I mean, when you think about it, an emoji is essentially a hieroglyphic of today. Because if I'm smiling, you know what I mean, regardless of what language you speak. So yeah, I think it's something, I mean, from a script writing perspective as well, I know that with every Shakespeare production, they say the same thing 3 times, because when Shakespeare productions would be live in the globe, they'd be speaking to upper class, the royal family up in the top, they'd speak to the middle class, and then they'd speak to the local villagers. So they would say the same thing 3 times, whether that is physically or with their language, to kind of welcome in more of an audience as well. And I mean, obviously it's not as elaborate nowadays, but really considering, I think when I work with a cast, I make sure that, okay, what is being said, it is physically being reacted to, and if we can assist with technology as well, we're saying the same thing 3 times without repeating ourselves, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, great.
I think stories by itself, it's a universal language, and by doing more show, not tell, anyone in any different language can tell this guy, this actor is angry or happy, or by just some moves or some signs. So this is part of what we do. For example, in the writing room, we always encourage writers to give attention to these elements, because that's gonna make the show more watchable by different audiences. And yeah, I agree. And I think now with movies, with a lot of things, there is I would say a style that appealing for more audience. For example, if we a lot of people here maybe watch Money Heist, for example. It's a It's what is it from? Sorry, it's Spanish show,
Yep.
but it's very Americanized. And because I love Spanish movies, it's very different from the style is very different from Spanish movies. I think this is also kind of language a lot of producers is considering, and it make your show more watchable.
I worked with a director years ago, and we produced a show. The show was ready, the cast were fantastic, everything was in place, and the rehearsals were great, technically working really well. And what we said to the cast was, the show's fantastic, now we have to teach the audience. So we have to teach the audience, we have to make sure that we're pacing stuff in a way that they've got time to react. We make sure that we repeat stuff in certain ways so they understand. We give them the moment to have the emotion that they have when they're watching the show. And so you consider the audience, of course you do. We talked about it earlier, when you're creating a show you consider who that audience is all, but sometimes you have to teach them. Sometimes you have to go, this is the bit where you laugh. This is the bit where you can relax for a minute. This is the bit where you can, oh that was all a bit intense, so there's huge considerations. There's lots of it, but sometimes you have to teach the audience.
And not just for the language as well, but also for the culture. There's a lot of censorship in productions. I mean, in movies as well. A release in one country, they will change maybe a food, or they'll change a practical joke because it's not funny in another country, or it's offensive maybe in another country as well.
Yes, you're right, Nick. It was exactly my question. It's just not a question of country or language. It's a question of also of age, of culture, of many things. Sure.
And that's why knowing the audience is so, and doing that homework and knowing who you're speaking to is so important, because we don't speak to have spoken, we speak to be understood, and in order to be understood we need to make these conscious adjustments as well. For a personal case study as well, I was writing a winter themed show, and it was about, all right, we're decorating a tree by the chimney. Then I realized, well, the GCC region doesn't exactly have chimneys, because we're not trying to keep warm. So then I thought, oh, well, for the region, obviously I need to change that. If I was doing that show in Europe, then yes, they know what a chimney is. So yeah, there's a lot of consideration with that.
I know we're out of time, but yeah.
We don't care about that.
Okay, we are the last session.
Okay. These people are here all night, don't worry.
It will take me 10 minutes for this topic then. There is indeed a very important topic which is very complicated for a producer, I think, which is the age of the audience.
Yes.
We can be so wrong of how a kid will react to a show performance, especially in a theme park. Let's take the example of theme park industry. I'm sorry to take factual example of my personal life, but I think it gives a pretty good idea of how we can be so wrong. And the meaning behind this is that we should constantly question ourselves: are we taking the right direction? I took my kid to a show we produced for a theme park in France in Futuroscope. That is staging a KUKA robot. It's the Tesla KUKA robot. That is being staged amidst multimedia technologies. The show begins with this KUKA in the mist environment. It's very dark. It's a very mysterious environment. I was certain my kid would cry and we would have to leave the show. She laughed. We were wrong. I mean, the show says that you cannot enter the theater if you are under the age of 6. She's 2. She loved it. I was pretty sure we would miss it, but it's very complicated.
It is. And what you think is going to work written down on a script on a piece of paper, when you put it in front of an audience, it's totally different. A line that you write that's an absolute throwaway turns out to be the biggest laugh in the whole show, or something that you've absolutely crafted to within an inch of its life goes for nothing. We've all been there. It's devastating. We are out of time, but as I say, we're not too bothered. So we'll take one more question if there is one, and if not, then we'll move on to our last session of the day. We must have covered it all, so that's great. Well, listen, please join me in thanking my fabulous panel here today, Julian, Osama and Nick. Please give them a big round of applause and stay with us for our very last session of the day, which, Nick, you're moderating this room. You can tell us all about it.
Absolutely. We will be having a spotlight presentation about engineering spectacle, unveiling the secrets behind the world's largest interactive dome and live AR broadcast.
What? Sounds amazing. Stay with us. Thank you, everyone.